Good evening. Sorry about the little camera shake. Still working on improving my video quality. I think I have decent audio quality right now, but I will continue to try to improve these things as I go along. So anyways, today is November 14th, Friday 2014, and I wanted to update because I had just a really interesting situation occur today, and a lot of my experiences in the last several weeks, I've had some good experiences where students have breakthrough and whatnot, but there have been but there have been a lot of negative circumstances, and something that a teacher should never do is take things personally. So I've been teaching for the last few weeks, and I think when I first got here, I had a lot to prove, and I felt like I needed to impress my school, impress everybody, and not screw up and not fail. And so I really hit the ground running and really hit my students metaphorically. Was very aggressive with them, and because they didn't want to engage at first, and I wasn't sure how to handle that, and because usually my classrooms have been small enough in the past that I could get my students to interact with a moderate amount of coaxing. But in this instance, my classes are a lot bigger than I'm used to, and I'm in a different culture, and I've never taught university students before. I've taught adults before, but I haven't taught university students, and so anyways, a lot to prove, and feeling kind of insecure about my teaching, and so. Anyways, I've had some degree of effectiveness with my students and getting them trained and to use English, and the breadth of the skill set that my students have is huge, from conversational, intermediate or slightly less than intermediate conversational abilities to barely know the alphabet. Some students barely know the alphabet, and so there's this huge gap in my students' learning and their skill abilities, and so anyways, all these things going on, and just trying to figure all these things out, and but a minute ago I mentioned a teacher should never take anything personally, and so this week, maybe 2 or 3 days ago, I was walking to class, and I just felt emotionally, I just kind of felt sort of hopeless, but it wasn't quite hopelessness. It was there was something that I needed to overcome in order to really connect with my students, because I felt my attitude just getting worse and worse and worse, and so I just prayed about it, and I just told God, I can't change this, and I was on my way to class. So as I was getting to class, I just felt like God spoke to me, and about that I had let a spirit into my life of taking things personally, and so I prayed a prayer of deliverance and kicked that out, and immediately I just felt just this pressure just release from me, and And I realized that so many things that my students had done, whether it was like falling asleep in class or not being as eager as I wanted them to be, or like any expectations that they hadn't met of mine, that I had taken those personally, and that I had allowed myself to be hurt by those. And I mean, I heard recently someone say that no one can hurt us without our permission. And I think that's really true. Also, it's hard to practice, but nonetheless, I want to practice that. And so, anyways, when I prayed about that and walked through that, it just lifted. And then, like, my eyes were really open, because then I realized that I had been really harsh with my students, and even angry, and even yelling, and like sometimes I can be passionate, and I don't think there's anything wrong with passion as long as it's expressed appropriately, but anger is not okay. And in the classroom, and yelling is not okay, probably ever, or at least in very few circumstances. And I had done that, and I'd messed up. And so I realized then that I needed to apologize to my students. I needed to apologize to my classes, and I needed to clean, because I realized, oh my goodness, I've made a lot of messes with my students, and I've mistreated them, and that's totally not okay. And while it's okay to have high standards, it's not okay to have done what I did. And so I basically went on an apology tour with the remainder of my classes this week. And like, since I wasn't taking things personally anymore, I could feel the emotions of my students. And so, like, several times this week I would walk into my classrooms and I could feel the damage that I'd done and the destruction that I caused to these relationships. And so I just hoping that they would be able to understand what I was saying, because some of them, their English isn't that good, but there's enough students, their English is good enough that they can understand. And I just said, I did these things that I shouldn't have done, and I'm really sorry. And I'll do my best not to, obviously to stay calm. And so, and as I did that, I could feel like this release of, I would say like a release of harshness, like something I had, in what I had done, I had released this harshness and this unhealthy intensity. And so I recognized, so as I apologized, it made me realize that, oh, this is bringing a restoration, or at least removing what I had done, unhurting them, so to speak. And so each time I would, like, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, each time that I apologized and I asked them if they understood, they responded, but they responded mostly with empathy and with emotion. Like, they did understand. They really did understand what I was saying. And so that was really, really good. And I'm so thankful so thankful to God, because like God is like, for me, God is my friend. And that might sound strange to some people, but God's amazing, guys. I mean, I'm just telling you, I've, in prayer and in just talking with him, he's so kind and so gracious. And even in his correction, I just feel so much love. And it's amazing. He's just amazing. And he helps me so often, because I sometimes I just get so full of myself, or just trying to achieve my objectives, but I'm just not doing it the right way, or just, just becoming really prideful and thinking that my way is the best way. And that belief is, such a lie. I mean, even if I have like good teaching techniques or good teaching skills or whatever, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference if I think that I'm better than other people, and that is just totally unacceptable. And I've had to seriously repent of those kinds of beliefs and that kind of garbage. And I'm so thankful that God helps me to do that, because without Him, I would be totally lost, and I would just, I'd be a huge jerk. So I wanted to talk about that. And I want to talk about this next thing I'm going to talk about, but I thought that I should talk about first, learning my lessons and bumping my head and learning how to be a teacher at the university level and doing an excellent job of it, not only technically, but emotionally, or at least trying to do a good job of it. And so just had to clean up that mess this week, and just cleaning up messes. And but I'm really glad I did it. But today something really interesting happened that I didn't expect. So I teach 13 classes. 12 of those classes are the same lesson plan. And but the final class that I teach on Friday is called English in the Workplace. So I've been taking a very unconventional approach to teaching this class. I've been giving them a lot of decisions to make, and putting a lot of control in their hands as far as what they want to learn, and then helping them learn that. And so, with that in mind, today what I did is my students wanted to learn about communication skills. So I taught them this principle that I learned from Stephen R. Covey, which is, as I'd mentioned in a previous video, he's the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the things that he talks about is, in terms of communication skills, is first listen to understand, then to be understood, or seek to understand, then to be understood. And it's sort of like, it sounds simple, but it has really, really deep implications. And we don't until I really started to apply this, I didn't realize how often I pretend that I'm listening. And over the years, I think I'd gotten good at pretending I was listening, but sometimes I totally wasn't. And the thing is, even if a person is good at pretending that they're listening, even if it looks like they're listening, but they aren't really listening, that people can probably sense that. And I know that one of my love languages is quality time. And so if someone isn't listening, it hurts. And anyway, so it's just something important to me. And so, and this is a concept a principle that I started to use to really endeavor to understand people first before I give my opinion or before I talk. And, even if I need to talk. And so that's what I taught my students today. And I walked them through a progression of how they can do that, how they can, if they receive a message from someone, how they can get more information, either by rephrasing what a person says, reflecting it back to them, or by asking questions or making requests. If somebody tells me something, then I can say, tell me more about that. Or I can say, can you give me an example of that? Or or when you say this, what do you mean by that? But it's basically just these ways of saying, like, give me, really help me to understand what you mean. Because, like I was telling someone important to me this week, that many times when there are misunderstandings in communication and relationships, it's because we've skipped one of the first steps of effective communication is negotiating the meaning of the words that we're using. And so often in the United States, because that's the country I'm most familiar with, and at the very least in English speaking cultures, words really get twisted a lot, and they get manipulated. And words, I was telling this person that words are not static things. They are dynamic, and they change, and they don't live in a dictionary. They live in people. And as I've heard stated in the past, and I apologize that I don't know who said that, but words live in people. And so anyways, I digress. I taught my students, seek first to understand, then to be understood, and I gave them a few phrases and a few verbal tools to be able to carry this out. And then I wasn't sure like how to get them to use this, to apply this. And I just asked God about it, and I got a response like right away. And I felt like He said, so it was like something like, this isn't exact, but it was something to the effect of like, have them, because like usually what I do, I'm sorry, this is so disjointed, but usually what I do is I'll teach my students something, and then I'll have them apply it in their group. So it'll be like a group of 2 or 3, 4 students, give or take 1 or 2, and they'll have to like come up with like a series of ideas of how to apply a concept, or how the implementation of that concept will affect them or affect other people. And that challenges them to think about it and to put themselves like into the future and what the implications are of the concepts that I'm teaching them or that I'm having them think of. And so, but then like I felt like the Lord gave me a new idea, which was to have each team present the other team's ideas. Because usually a team presents their own ideas or their own content that I've requested of them. But this time I felt like the Lord said, hey, have them present the other team's idea. And then that way, that would give them not only it's like a ton of English speaking practice, but also the perfect opportunity to use this concept of seeking first to understand, then to be understood. And because they would have to communicate with the other teams and interact with another team and really have to develop a deep understanding of those concepts. And so the activity I gave to them was what are 2 or 3 ways, like I told them to come up with 2 or 3 good things that would result from putting this concept to work. And so, long story short, of course me, it's never a short story. 2 teams gave their presentations, and then the final team went to give their presentation, and the young lady who had led the team whose ideas were being presented by this other team was having a really hard time with how her ideas were being presented, and she didn't agree with it, and she seemed upset and almost angry or on the verge of tears, or it was just, she seemed very emotive and very emotional. And so I sort of like I sort of mediated their conflict a little bit, but I mostly like let them kind of work it out. And then eventually, like the team who was doing the presentation, they finished it and they left and the class was over. And the young lady had seemed to come to an agreement with how her ideas were being presented, or her team's ideas were being presented. But still, like I wanted to talk to her, and so when everybody was leaving, I asked her to stay behind and to talk to her. And so I just asked her like how she was feeling, and I asked her what she was learning in class, and she basically like reflected back sort of the idea of seeking first to understand, which was basic. And then I asked her how she was feeling, and then she started to cry. She started to tear up, and so I watched her, and I just asked her questions to keep her talking. And long story short, what she told me was that, in a nutshell, was that basically what came out of it was that she had was comparing herself to one or maybe more students in her class who she didn't feel that she was comparing herself to them, and either beating herself up over her lack of performance or something to that effect. But anyway, she was feeling really terrible about herself and really worthless, and she was crying, and she was just really emoting, and she seemed like so ashamed of it, but it was really beautiful though, because she was just so vulnerable, and it was like part of what I love to do is I love to help people when it's appropriate. I don't want to fix people. I don't want to rescue people. I don't want people to be dependent on me. But if I can just support people and help people discover who they really are and the essence of their identity, or at least to anything that helps facilitate that, I want to be a part of. And part of that is just being able to speak truth into people's lives, and if an opportunity presents itself. And so I was able to just speak some truths into her life, that she was valuable and that she deserved to be valued and to have people like spend time with her and help her. And she kept saying things like, "Oh, I'm so immature because I cry, and I'm emotional, and I and she was, saying, "Oh, I'm so negative, and other people are positive, and other people are smiling, and I don't smile." And it was amazing to just be able to speak into her life and just say, well, sometimes it's hard to be positive if we have all this emotion. And I pointed out that, hey, she's crying. She's probably going to feel better after she cries. And she cried for probably, we talked for like 10 to 20 minutes, and maybe not 20 minutes, but it seemed like a good length of time. And she thanked me. I'm not trying to glad hand myself, but she thanked me for just telling her those things. And I just, it felt amazing to be able to contribute to her life in a meaningful way. But I had the thing, this is what shocks me, guys, is that I had no, the principle that I taught, I just didn't realize how powerful it was. Because I'm not, I'm a person and my words are powerful, but I didn't make up that concept. I just taught something that someone else had taught me. And I've tried to apply it, and I've tried to learn from it. But so like I've passed it on, but that principle, I didn't realize how powerful it was. I didn't realize how it would challenge someone. I would bring out the things that are brought up in this young woman, you know, and I just didn't realize I could do that. And, you know, teaching these principles, I didn't realize it could really help someone to be free in ways that seemed totally unrelated. But, you know, I mean, obviously they're related emotionally, and, you know, I didn't realize that they could bring me so much freedom. And, I mean, it seems kind of obvious somewhat in hindsight, but at the same time, like, I could not have predicted this kind of reaction, this kind of response, and how it would challenge people. It would challenge their insecurities, and it would challenge their sense of worth, and force them to face things. And so I'm just really hoping that she feels more valuable now, and not necessarily because of what I said to her, but just because, like, in a sense, if I was looking at the situation on the outside, because someone was willing to stay with her and be with her in that moment and show her that she's valuable, and that crying, like, that when it comes down to it, like, it can be very healthy and there's nothing to be ashamed of. And those were like the kinds of messages I was trying to send her. But I didn't realize I would have these opportunities as a teacher to have that kind of interaction and to support her in that way. And so I kind of tried to, like, watch myself and just make sure I wasn't, like, getting too wrapped up in her stuff, and to, you know, keep some of that teacher objectivity, not disconnection, but just, you know, she's a student, I'm a teacher, and I don't want her getting emotionally attached to me or anything like that, or her getting any ideas, but to just affirm her. And so it's just really exciting to me, because I mean, if it keeps going this way, I mean, being a university teacher may very well provide me more opportunities to support, to contribute to people's lives in ways that I didn't anticipate. And that is really powerful to me and really meaningful to me. And I'm really excited about the power of applying these principles in the classroom, and because not only does it help them to learn English, but it also helps them to just learn how to be better humans, just better people, and they can use these principles in anything they do, in any language. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, it could be Chinese or English or Arabic or whatever. And so I'm super excited about that, and I wanted to talk to you guys about that, my friends and family, and anybody else who pays attention. And so there you go, guys. That's my update for the day. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch and to listen and to understand. And please leave responses. Like I want to reply to responses if I can. I don't like to, like, I do like to write, but writing takes a lot of time, so I usually give responses in the videos, and maybe that's not cool, but that's just how I'm going to do it for now, unless there's something that I really feel like I need to invest a lot of time in. But I really appreciate your time and attention, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.